Welcome to Dynamic Movement on a Boiler Feed Pump to Turbine from Acquip Incorporated. My name is Damian Josephsberg. Thank you for joining me for this presentation. During this presentation, you'll learn a little bit about what makes up dynamic movement on a boiler feed pump to turbine, how to measure that movement, and how to correct for that movement during the alignment. At the end of this presentation, you'll be given some information on how you can have Acquip come to your facility and measure the dynamic movement on your boiler feed pump to turbine and correct for it during alignment. Oftentimes, people talk about thermal growth, and what they're really talking about is dynamic movement. So, what does dynamic movement consist of? Well, dynamic movement does consist of thermal growth that's due to heat expansion in the material. But also, there's torsional movement that all affects the dynamic movement of the machine across the coupling. There are several components that make up thermal growth. First, there's growth of the machine. This is just thermal expansion in the material. There's growth of the piping, also the way that the piping expands thermally. Then there's piping geometry. This affects the thermal growth in the machine because depending on your piping geometry, it'll push and pull around the machine in different ways. Pure thermal growth does occur between the boiler feed pump and the turbine. This is just due to relative alignment changes across the coupling simply due to the metal expanding. A center-mounted pump is still affected by thermal growth. It'll still be affected in the horizontal direction, and it's still affected by angular thermal growth in the vertical direction. Thermal growth in the piping will push and pull on the pump and will push and pull on the turbine that will create alignment changes across the coupling. This can be considered either pure thermal growth or torsional movement, but it still all adds up to dynamic movement across the coupling. Oftentimes, you get alignment targets from the manufacturer, but there's no way that they could account for piping geometry because this drastically changes the alignment targets. In their facility, under their environment and their piping geometry, they were able to record their own alignment changes across the coupling. But in your environment, under your piping geometry, it is going to be different. And this thermal growth may not show its effects for several hours of operation. These graphs show torsional movement across the coupling. There's immediate movement in the machine when it first starts up. This is before the metal has had enough time to expand in order to add to the dynamic movement. You could see in each one of these graphs abrupt movements as soon as the machine is started. This is purely due to torsional movement. In a boiler feed pump to turbine dynamic movement study, there's always movement due to torque. It forms a severe angle as soon as the vacuum is pulled on the turbine, and oftentimes it is the most significant portion of the dynamic movement that is recorded. There are several benefits of measuring and correcting your dynamic movement on your boiler feed pump to turbine. First of all, you're going to avoid future alignment problems. You're going to increase the efficiency of the machine. You're going to increase the mean time between failure, and this all directly translates into saving money and increasing profits. Why is Acquip the best choice for your laser alignment needs? Well, Acquip knows that it is critical to have machinery aligned at hot operating conditions, not just cold conditions. It is essential that machines be monitored from cold to hot operating conditions in order to properly adjust for thermal growth as well as incalculable relative torque movement. Acquip uses the most advanced laser-based alignment systems to configure your machine's optical coupling alignment targets throughout its thermal range. Acquip's thermal growth monitoring services facilitate maximum running efficiency and productivity. At Acquip, alignment is our business. Thank you for joining me for this presentation. For more information on Acquip products and services, you can contact our sales office at 407-401-9343. For any technical questions, you can contact operations at 305-538-7101. You can always find us on the internet at www.acquip.com, or you could send us an email at info@acquip.com. Remember, at Acquip, alignment is our business.